specifically in Iowa.
Mm-hmm. Iowa. Okay. So, how long have you been working for the Department of the Interior?
Most recently, I started working in November. I
Okay.
actually started the day before the election, like November
Wow.
4th.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Is this your first
Mm-hmm.
federal position?
It is not. I worked with my same agency from 2013 to 2019, and then left for a little bit, went to grad school, and then just started again in a different position, but in the same office with like a lot of the same people
Okay.
in November. Yeah.
Okay. So, what's your master's in?
Geoscience.
Oh, geoscience.
I do a lot of groundwater research and fieldwork related to water quality issues.
Uh-huh. Interesting. So, hmm. I'm, how are you experiencing the Trump administration's attack on science?
It's been rough. So I work for the U.S. Geological Survey, which is within the Department of Interior,
Okay.
and I mean, the U.S. Geological Survey is kind of interesting. It's a bit different in a lot of ways from typical federal agencies.
Mm-hmm.
We run a big data collection network across the country that collects water levels and discharge and velocity
Mm-hmm.
data from a bunch of stream gauges.
Mm-hmm.
And this information is used for flood prediction. It's used for like navigation. It's used by Army Corps of Engineers, NOAA, National Weather Service, Forest Service, all kinds of agencies to do different like climate and weather prediction.
Uh-huh.
And then we also do a lot of scientific research and investigation in a bunch of different focus areas. So we have like a water mission area, which I'm under. We have more geology, critical minerals and mining and geology. We have natural disasters, and then we have an ecosystems mission area. And I mean, the attack on science has been pretty bad, but it's also some of it is sort of just hearsay, like things that are proposed. Like they're proposing to eliminate the ecosystems mission area entirely, and they're proposing to cut like the water missionary area, but a lot of it is really unclear right now because we're waiting for the details of the budget to be decided on.
Mm-hmm.
So some of the bigger impacts are like a large project that I was hired to work on. It might be completely eliminated. We don't know. And the fiscal year, has the fiscal year already started? Fiscal year 2026? No, it starts on October 1st.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm lead of a project, and we don't know the funding yet, and so I'm being asked to draft budgets for a scenario where funding is drastically reduced, or a different scenario where we have funding continued as it's proposed to be. And it's a large national project that's supposed to continue for many more years.
Mm-hmm.
So it really complicates things when we're understaffed, underfunded. We're not really allowed to spend any money right now because they've put purchase limits at $1 on all of our credit cards.
Oh my gosh. Why?
No reason given. That was several months ago. So I mean, it affects it like very day-to-day basis, and then like in longer-term things. So like the purchase card limit thing is hard because I do a lot of field data collection where I'm actually going out to sites and taking water quality samples, making measurements, doing like regular maintenance on different sensors that are recording data. And sometimes I'm driving, 3-4 hours away, staying overnight in a hotel. And like, if there's a bolt I need, or a couple nails, or a wasp spray, or super glue, I can't buy anything because normally any technician that's going out and needs a small amount of supplies, we have our own purchase cards. We can't use those anymore. So like a lot of the staff that do a ton of field work, I mean, it completely changes how they're doing work. And we also, I feel like I'm kind of just going on and on. So feel free to let me know if I'm kind of free associating too much, but
Yeah, let me ask you a question real quick. So,
yeah,
are you allowed to use your own personal credit cards if you need to buy small supplies like that and then request reimbursement later?
we're told that it's a difficult process and we shouldn't plan on using that. I think that they've said if there's a situation like for travel and something crazy happens, that there is a way to get reimbursement, but we're not encouraged or directed to use that for like small routine purchases.
Okay, so it sounds like they're trying to make your just day-to-day job difficult in that way.
Yeah, I mean, I can't remember what the original wording in the directive was, but it definitely severely impacts our ability to do all kinds of work. And I mean, within our own agency, we collect water quality samples on a routine basis, at least for the project that I work on. One of the projects that I work on that's been in existence for decades.
Mm-hmm.
We collect routine water quality samples at major rivers in our state, about 1 to 2 times a month. And then we ship samples to a lab, the National Water Quality Lab, that tests them. And like for a while, we didn't know if we could ship samples because we didn't know if there was a way to bill FedEx. So it's like we can't buy any supplies. I mean, some stuff we buy from within our agency, so the flow of money is internal, and that hasn't been eliminated or halted in any way. But the amount of paperwork and like bureaucracy that's been added to all of our processes to just get very routine functions accomplished is insane. Like, to be able to travel anywhere, even if it's a routine thing that has been part of a budget for a project that's existed for multiple years. So yeah, we can't, I think technically there might be a way to get reimbursed, but that's not been enabled as a routine thing.
Okay, so then for this decade-long project that you're on, have you been able to ship out your samples? Have you been able to travel?
Yeah, we were able to work with FedEx to get an internal billing situation figured out. But I think these types of solves and fixes have been a big lift because we've had, a pretty large loss of personnel. So admin is already overworked.
Yeah.
And overextended, so it's been a lot to get that accomplished. But yeah, we were able to get that approved, and we're able to get travel approved for routine things. So if we call it mission critical, that seems to be the word of the day, then we're able to get it. And I think also, I don't know if my agency is different because a lot of our work is funded through this thing called cooperative matching funds.
Okay.
And so not 100% of our funding is federal. We're closer to a 50-50. We partner with other federal agencies, state agencies, and local agencies for environmental data collection. So that's been part of the other thing is like, how do we get our projects done with collaborators that are paying us to do work, but the federal these new federal crackdowns on everything are making it so we can't fulfill the needs of like the state government that's paying us to do like flood prediction or monitoring.
So what is the name of that agreement? It's a cooperative agreement?
Yeah, it's called CMS, Cooperative Matching Funds.
Okay.
I think it's maybe a different model of how some work is funded. Yeah. So we have some congressional allocation. Yeah, it's called USGS Cooperative Matching Fund, supports joint projects with our state, regional, tribal, and local partners to provide reliable, impartial, and timely information needed to understand and manage the nation's water resources. So it must just be kind of a unique thing to USGS, maybe.
So I used to work for the USDA, and I did like agreements, and I've done travel arranging and reimbursements and stuff like that. So I'm familiar with a lot of the stuff that you're talking about. And we never did cooperative matching funds. We received money from Department of State, and we received money from USAID, and some congressional funds also. But nothing. I have not heard of the matching funds before, so that's interesting.
Yeah, like understand, because, for example, my husband works for a nearby city to where I live that also funds a long-term water monitoring project that I work on. And so I hear from his end how federal funding freezes is impacting his city government and their ability to get, like, this long-term flood wall installation project done. But then I'm also concerned that our project with the city could be impacted by all these changes, and it's a long-term project that is mutually beneficial because the USGS does these cooperative things where we say kind of like, you're willing to put forward this much money, like $50,000 to fund something. We will also cooperatively match that amount, and the USGS benefits from it because then we can do a little bit more science. So the city's like, we want to monitor this water quality problem. The USGS is like, this is beneficial to the public because we can maybe monitor in a different way or do some interesting long-term predictions. And so, yeah, it's an interesting thing.
So you mentioned that your team has been downsized. Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah, so we had, like, the first deferred resignation, fork in the road thing. I don't even remember when that was.
In the spring, like March, maybe?
I'm trying to remember because I can't remember if we had the first DRP fork in the road, if that happened before or after, like, we had people fired, like, terminated on Valentine's Day. I can't remember which came first, but yeah, we lost a couple of people. We lost a handful of people on Valentine's Day who were fired randomly. I think that was after the DRP. So we had, 5 employees that were all probationary staff fired without, like, any reason being given other than that their continued employment was no longer in the best interest of the agency, was the wording. And then I think maybe after that, we had the first fork in the road. So we've had, some terminations of the probationary staff, 2 deferred resignation program offers, FERA and VSIP, but we haven't had a RIF. But we lost quite a few people to early retirement that they were able to combine with a deferred resignation buyout program.
Yeah.
And I think we lost, like, 20% of our staff in our office. I'm not sure how bad it's been agency-wide, but it's been, I think, between, like, 17 and 30%, depending on whether it's, like, National Park Service, Bureau of Land Management, DOI-wide, it's been pretty extreme.
So your specific office lost about 20% of staff.
Yeah. So I'm in a water science center that's between Iowa, Illinois, and Missouri. So I work with people from those 3 offices, and I think we've lost, I think it was 20% about.
So how has the staffing cuts impacted your work?
It's been hard. It's been pretty difficult. We've lost a lot of specialists, so we release a lot of scientific reports that are rigorously peer-reviewed, and we've lost our report specialist. We've lost our geospatial mapping specialist, and a lot of time that we have budgeted for people to do, like, large amounts of data analysis or large amounts of field work. We've lost a lot of senior and then junior staff, and so people who aren't quite ready to retire, people that are early to mid-career like myself, have struggled because, like, for instance, I had a staff member who I was training to help me on a project with, and then she was fired, and then she was rehired, and she still is concerned because her probationary period ended, like, earlier this week, and she hasn't been told whether or not she's supposed to come back to work. She's just coming back to work. So it's a lot of like starts and stops, and loss of a large amount of institutional foundational knowledge has been lost due to losing senior staff. So it's caused a lot of difficulty in that sense. And then the arm of our agency that does a lot of long-term data collection at stream gauges, a lot of local communities rely on that for, critical flood prediction, and then a lot of river tourism and recreation, fishermen, hunters, boaters, people that just live along the waterway. A lot of people rely on that data, and things break all the time. So there's a lot of technician staff that go out and do a lot of field work year-round. There's people out every single week fixing stuff, doing routine work, and they're severely impacted because they can't make purchases. They're the most overpaid and underworked throughout our agency and always have been. And so they've lost more people, and those losses are just felt more because of how overextended they already are without being impacted by this.
So what you're talking about right now is a flood prediction staff?
Yeah, they do. They're a technician level position. They do a lot more field work, a lot more physical labor for stream gauging. And yeah, it's definitely critical for flood prediction. And it's definitely been felt. Everybody's overextended. Everybody's trying. We're kind of triaging all the time. How are we going to be able to get these things done? Especially when it's not just federal funding being cut. So yeah, it's like, how do we meet project goals with limited staff and extremely limited abilities, like not being able to purchase things except in very specific circumstances? And then how do we plan for the future to be able to meet the needs of cooperators when we have this cooperative matching fund? So we don't just answer to Congress, for example. Like some agencies kind of more, if they're just getting their money from Congress, I guess it's not like, I think we have to be able to communicate with outside cooperators that fund a lot of our work. It's not just talking with collaborators and cooperators and saying like these things are changing. It's saying, okay, we still have to be able to meet the needs of this project that you gave us money to do. And I know that's a concern. And then also, how do we fund all of these staff members who took deferred resignation buyouts?
Yeah.
We've been told to use the congressional funding to pay those people's salaries who are being paid to not work. And I'm not saying that disparagingly, but like one of the projects that I'm a project chief on is congressionally allocated funding, and that's going to be used, I've been told, to fund the buyouts. So it's also like, how do we pay for all this stuff that we were forced to do? And how do we spread everyone thinly enough, but not too thinly, so that everything gets done?
Yeah. So what you do in your job is, the details are different than what I did, but the overall picture is pretty similar. So, like, I worked with project managers. I was, I guess you could say, like a program assistant. And the program managers, you have these programs and you have different accounting codes and project program funding, and you draw up these budget tables like you're saying, and you have this specific amount of money that goes towards this person's salary and their benefits, and it's very carefully calculated. And if now those people aren't there to do the work, now I imagine you have to look at your different accounting codes and, like you're saying, the congressionally allocated funds, and now you have to use those funds to pay them for not working instead of what you had originally planned. And I imagine that's incredibly frustrating and stressful for your projects to get done.
Yeah, there's a lot of, like, going back and forth about what it would be, the science that we'd like to do, because that's what our agency is supposed to be doing, but how much time we're spending talking about how to just get to the next fiscal year as we await Congress's, like, first we were waiting this bill, and now we're waiting the actual details of the budget. So yeah, it's a huge distraction.
Yeah.
Extremely inefficient.
Mm-hmm.
So many hours of time by admin staff. I mean, I don't work super closely with people that have done sort of maybe program assistant type roles,
mm-hmm.
but from what we hear during our, like, weekly all hands meetings, it's like they can get a random data request from basically Doge being like, we need to get a list of every single cooperative agreement we have in this office, and we need a justification for why it should continue, and they're only given a certain amount of characters to describe it.
Yeah.
It's like a lot of shit like that that's happening too. Luckily I haven't been forced to deal with as much, but yeah, the trickle-down effect is major.
Yeah, and you're saying that you lost junior staff and senior staff. The senior staff have a lot of knowledge, and that's gone. The junior staff help you guys, I imagine, doing your jobs, the paperwork and stuff like that you don't want to do, one, and that you also don't have time for.
Yeah.
So
definitely,
you're really, really constricted in what you're able to do.
Yeah.
So I'm interested in this flood stuff. With what happened in Texas, what do you think of that, the major flood that they had?
I can't say. I have no knowledge of what monitoring, prediction, alert systems they did or didn't have in place.
Mm-hmm.
But I know I used to work for my same agency as a hydrologic technician working on our stream gauge network, and so I was very aware of how the data collection, how valuable it was, how much time and effort was put into making it highly accurate and precise, and some of the ways in which it was used by federal agencies and by local communities for not just flood prediction and flood protection, but also recreation, just day to day. Can we go, in river communities in my state, a lot of people are fishermen or kayakers. There's a lot of the tourism industry relies on the stream gauging network. And so I can imagine, I have seen also firsthand during floods how our data has been used, and it's very important to have a well-trained staff that's able to respond, because I used to have to respond during floods. So we have our station measuring what stage the river's at and how much water is flowing through it.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have staff go out during the flood to try to measure, do an actual measurement, because we are calculating based on an equation how much water is coming through,
mm-hmm.
based on continuous measurement of the water. And so we actually had to go out and have people verify those measurements during floods.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, if you're understaffed, that limits your ability to go out there and make measurements. And so understaffing agencies that provide this critical science infrastructure definitely could affect the quality of the science that can be done. And I think that could definitely affect predictive capabilities and stuff like that. And when you have multiple federal agencies that are understaffed and forced to deal with this and triage, in an area of increasing climate vulnerability and hazards, it's scary to imagine what that world might look like. But that world is right here, right now. So, I mean, I can't say that. I don't know if, what my agency's role would have been in what happened in Texas, but it's scary, and I'm sure that there's effects of this, and that we can. It's probably happening all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And just having accurate scientific data or having especially accurate climate and environmental data is really important. And for understaffing agencies and in trying to trying to give the public this perception that the science isn't important and is way too expensive, that's just creating all this doubt in federal agencies, and a federal agency's ability to address a disaster at the right moment is really important, and having people trust in their federal agency's ability to do their job is also really important. And so having an administration that's directly attacking that at every turn is pretty devastating and sad.
Yeah. Do you worry that a major flood like that could happen in your area?
Oh, for sure. They happen often, and they're increasingly common. Even things like, I think about in 2020, there was a derecho, which is essentially a land hurricane in Iowa, and some of the fastest winds that have ever been recorded, like in the Midwest, happened, and it decimated a vast amount of crops in Iowa and caused hundreds of millions, maybe billions of dollars worth of damage. And, having like the USDA be understaffed in an agricultural state, having the USGS be understaffed and not be able to come and deal with some of the environmental effects, or having like severe droughts, which we've been having pretty commonly, or flooding. It absolutely could happen in our state. And our state isn't, or our agency isn't regulatory, but we are charged with trying to do things that aid in the protection of life and property. So I know that our agency is trying to prioritize initiatives, with all these things that restrict our ability to do our job. We're trying to prioritize things that do aid in the protection of life and property. But it's still difficult because, the money and the work has to come from somewhere, and you can only spread so thin before things start popping out through the holes and whatnot.
Yeah, absolutely. So how is your personal morale, and how is your team's morale?
It varies. I think that we do a lot of field work and travel this time of year, and so there's a lot of stress getting ready for that work, and we have to go out and get a lot of stuff done outside in difficult conditions. So sometimes I feel like there's a good distraction, and we all kind of try to forget about it. But we all talk about it every day, and there's a lot that we don't know. A lot of our staff is term employees, so non-permanent, and we still have some probationary employees, and so everybody's always concerned about, will my staff that's supposed to help me with this, will they be here this week? Will they be here in 3 months after their term ends? It goes up and down a lot. I think some weeks it's better than others. Day to day, we all really, really love our jobs, so I think it's been really low at times. We have to just keep going, so we're able to, but we all are also all in it together. Everybody talks a lot about it, and at least in my immediate office, there doesn't seem to be anybody that's weirdly weird about people talking about it. And, accusing us of being political or something. It's just difficult.
Yeah. And I understand that there's a lot of unpredictability, a lot of up and down. You've talked about how it's difficult for you guys to do your projects now, even a decade-long project. You're experiencing some constraints. What are some other changes that you're experiencing in this Trump administration?
One thing was an immediate, out of nowhere, travel ban that was in place sometime. I think it was maybe January, February. And we're scientists, So we go to conferences to present our work, to learn from others, to get training, to have meetings with collaborators.
Mm-hmm.
And some of that is extremely mission critical because that's what science is. And there was a travel ban put in place that was just supposed to be across the board with, like, no exceptions.
Mm-hmm.
And so everybody was like, well, what the heck? Like, we do environmental data collection science. How are we supposed to do that? We can't do that remotely. We have to go, every single week or every single month to these sites that we have. And so just, like, things that get passed, and then they're like, no exceptions. And then we know that behind the scenes, there's a bunch of people working really hard, being like, this is going to drastically impact, like, we're not going to be able to do any of our work. We have to have exceptions.
Yeah.
And so things like that. So we've had, like, gradually some travel open up, but we had to put a bunch of things on hold. And with environmental data collection, like, there's seasonal trends and year-to-year trends and things like that that are important to capture. So regular data collection, and which involves travel, is critical. So a lot of projects have had their timelines impacted, which could impact the quality of the science. We're banned from going to conferences of any kind. So I was supposed to present at a big national monitoring conference in March, and then I was supposed to present at another one in May, and they were both going to involve travel, but they were banned. And some of these conferences are 50%, EPA and USGS and other federal science staff. So I spent time working on those presentations, emailing people that I was excited to meet with at the conference to share my work and learn from them.
Mm-hmm.
And then just as across-the-board travel ban, they had to cancel the entire conference.
Wow.
And then they had to cancel the other one that I was supposed to go to. And so, and then a lot of people are going to those conferences and trying to pitch work and create more partnerships to do more important science.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, that hamstrings their ability to do that. And then just adding a lot more loopholes and a lot more paperwork to get approval to do very basic stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I wanted to buy, I can't even remember, I've had to buy, like, some very basic, like, hardware supplies, like packs of nuts and bolts, WD-40 and stuff like that, and I have to, like, email the only person in our office that has a purchase card and say, these are the things I need, and these are why I need them.
Yeah.
Anytime I travel more than 50 miles away from my office, I have to get something signed by me and my supervisor and admin. So there's, like, multiple more forms that I have to do for a normal thing that I've been doing for months,
mm-hmm.
and that somebody on the project has been doing about issue for years. So it's so much more paperwork. And then, like, every week I have to remember to email 5 of my accomplishments to OPM.
Do you still have to do that?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
And I get, like, an email from my boss and an email from my agency every week. But we've not been told any reason why, what they're doing with the information or what it's for. And the email says, we will evaluate both responses and non-responses. So it's kind of vaguely worded.
Yeah.
But just a lot of things like that it's like, there's already a lot of bureaucracy and red tape in government, I'll admit, but, like, adding so much more to it that seems to have no purpose is very frustrating and demoralizing.
Yeah, it's interesting because Doge was running on, we're gonna make things less bureaucratic, more efficient, but all they're doing, or have been doing, is adding more red tape and more bureaucracy, making things more difficult for people to get their basic jobs done.
Yeah. And, like, we had this thing where they emailed us a couple months ago and said that we were going to be receiving an employee data sheet that summarized our, like, basic information that would be on your SF50,
mm-hmm.
and then it would summarize your length of service and your past performance appraisals,
mm-hmm.
and then it asked us to take that sheet and verify the information on it, and then also provide them with an updated resume.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a week to do it, but they sent it out. They sent the emails out at different times. So I got it like, I think 2 days before it was due. So I had to take an entire morning of one of my days, update my resume, and go into my EOPS and find all these old documents and old SF50s, and a lot of the information on my sheet was wrong.
Yeah.
And things like that are happening pretty frequently, and there's a lot of examples.
Yeah.
Trying to think of another one.
So while you're thinking, you started your original job in 2013 until 2019. Yeah. So I think Trump came into office the first time in 2016. So you experienced him twice.
Yeah.
Can you tell me what are some differences between the first time and this time?
Yeah. The first time, I think there was a hiring freeze put into place, but I don't remember it lasting nearly as long as this one has. But I could be remembering incorrectly. And I remember there being a lot of concern about budget cuts or changes to budget in the past for the first Trump administration. But what I remember more is changes to how we communicate science, and that sort of being the main thing that people were concerned with in my agency. And at that time, I worked for the technician side of things, so collecting river and stream data for like flood prediction capabilities. That was my previous job. And I don't remember being as concerned. It didn't really seem like there were honestly that many impacts. But I remember hearing my research colleagues, the people that worked in the section that I work in now that do more scientific research, saying that there was changes to how, like, we weren't allowed to use certain words like climate change, or there's kind of a list of words that you weren't supposed to use in reports because it would imply human-induced climate change or global warming.
That was the first time or this time?
That was the first time.
Okay.
But now it's way, way worse. Like, there's a lot more directives, a lot more executive orders related to communication of science, and then all other kinds of things, you know? So it's definitely way worse and way escalated now, but especially with how it impacts staff and funding.
Okay.
The first administration just seemed like they were a little bit anti-science, but they were like, don't say that humans cause climate change, or don't imply that. But now they're like, please stop doing science, like, we don't want to fund it. Or that's what it seems like.
So tell me more about this worry in your how you communicate science.
With, like, the wording of it?
Yeah, so if you have to send out information to, like, NOAA or something, do you have to restrict the words that you use?
So I'm not in a role that does that, but I think from what I've heard, there are lists of words that are sort of considered, how would I put it? There's lists of words that are considered contentious, or, I mean, it doesn't impact our ability to communicate science to the degree that I think a regulatory agency like EPA has to contend with, but I've been told that there's, like, certain words that you're not supposed to use and alternative words that are proposed, because we are non-regulatory and we also don't like to imply things that we can't directly scientifically verify. And then more broadly, there are concerns with agencies like National Science Foundation and the NIH, Health and Human Services. A lot of other agencies that deal with scientific information are being told that certain grants aren't getting put through if they use certain wording. And so we're also conscious of that. I don't know if there have been directives coming down from within DOI saying don't use this type of wording, But we're concerned that, if any, like, grant for NSF that has the word diversity in it or migration in it is getting rejected, we're concerned that if we word something like that, and I mean, you could be saying, like, diversity of microbial communities or a diversity of water quality chemicals. There's many different ways that they're the most benign words ever, but because they're on a list in some capacity impacting science in another federal agency, I think there's also just a general concern about how things are being scrutinized and how things are being looked at. And they're proposing to completely eliminate the ecosystems mission area. And like, I've had colleagues that have voluntarily pulled out of conferences or voluntarily pulled out of certain meetings or presentations, working with certain collaborators because they're concerned about how it's going to look. Like, not wanting to work with certain agencies because there was an element of DEI on a project, or not wanting to work with something that had something to do with, like, biology or ecosystems because the administration is proposing to completely eliminate that mission area of our organization. And so people are like, well, I don't know if I want to be associated with this type of research or associated with working with this type of group, because somebody might think that that implies that I am doing DEI, and we've been told to, like, scrub everything related to DEI off all of our internal and external web pages. So some of it's just kind of like that, not necessarily, some of it's, like, directly from the administration, and some of it is more indirect, but, like, very valid concerns about how things would be perceived.
Yeah, it's really crazy. I'm very familiar. Yeah, I'm really familiar with the list of words. For us, we couldn't use climate smart ag anymore, and diversity, that was a big one. Like, it's important to have a diverse diet, and we specifically had projects to target women and youth, and we can't use those words anymore, and it's just crazy.
Yeah, it's insane. I mean, you would think so many things that I'm doing in my agency don't have to do with people, and so I was thinking this isn't going to impact us as much, or that's what some people thought, but it's, it's very ridiculous. And, like, they were supposed to have this, like, it was like a Black Scientists and Engineers Week talk or presentation during, like, Black History Month. It got mysteriously canceled. And then a Woman in Science thing for, like, Women's History Month also got canceled. Mm-hmm. They've told us to disband our EEI, I think it was, there was, like, we had an employee engagement committee that did DEI initiatives, and our center director just told us to eliminate that, or to, like, call it something else. Mm-hmm. Pretty early on. But it impacts our ability to communicate science, but I think, like, a lot of things we've been doing are pretty routine. Mm-hmm. But a lot of, like, newer research that could be more groundbreaking or more novel could be impacted, because a lot of the things that we need to address as a society do impact, do have to do with diversity, or, like, new things, like new challenges that we're facing as a society, where scientific research needs to be done, especially in, like, climate change, environmental justice. A lot of those things are being halted or restricted in major ways.
Yeah. So I have a couple more questions for you. Very quickly, has the return to office affected you at all?
I wasn't super affected because I, like, live pretty close to my office. Mm-hmm. I started, like, the day before the election, so I knew that if the election went a certain way, that, like, we all knew that return to office was probably going to happen if Trump was elected. So personally, it didn't impact me severely, but in some ways it has, because we've had to navigate, like, they're allowing some limited telework, and some offices within USGS are allowing it for a variety of different reasons.
Mm-hmm.
But our office, since we had our center director retire and take the DRP, we have a newly appointed person that works for another office that, like, none of us know, and he's kind of like our awkward stepdad. He's telling us that, like, he's like, well, I've talked with the senior, like, supervisors, and we to protect our staff, we only want to allow telework in one instance, or in two instances, extreme weather, and then if you have a medical appointment,
mm-hmm.
and you could work for, like, 2 hours or less to, like, save time, like, you're allowed to telework in that position, but you have to get approved in advance, and you can't use it for another family member's medical appointment or anything like that.
Mm.
So a lot of my coworkers are impacted by it, and it's tricky because we do a lot of travel, and so it's like, if you're collecting field data and you come home and you're done at the end of the day at, like, 3 p.m., why can't you go work from home for 2 hours when you've been, like, we do so much work outside of our office anyways,
mm-hmm.
And we have to, most of us have work phones so that we can remotely work remote in from the field.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, we're allowed to essentially telework as part of our job because we literally do field work. But we can't do it for personal reasons. And also, like, I've been teleworking for the past month because our office is under construction, so it's kind of like, oh, we can telework when work needs us to, but not when we need to. And I know for a lot of coworkers who have kids or who live further away because it's very expensive to live in the city where our office is,
mm-hmm.
it's presented a lot of challenges for people.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's not fair to people who have kids. Like, why you can take time off, telework for personal reasons, but your kids are part of your personal life and they're your dependents.
Yeah.
So,
and it's like, if your kid has a doctor's appointment, but, like, you can work from the lobby, well, I don't know, or if, like, your kid's sick but they're old enough to do their own thing,
yeah,
and you don't have to actively you don't have to actively care for them while you're doing your job, but the parent has to be home.
Yeah.
Like, why can't you from home while your kid watches TV and takes Tylenol in the other room recovering from, like, something mild? You know what I mean? It's
really silly.
It's not modern, very unreasonable, yeah.
Yeah. And why is your building under construction?
I think it's an older building, and there's construction that's been planned for a while, but with the administration change, I think our admin staff was overburdened, and so working with, like, our local GSA contact to get it all scheduled was difficult, so it kept getting postponed.
I see.
And they're just doing that now.
Okay. So it's not like you guys were lacking space, so they need to make, like, an annex or something on the building?
Not like that. It's kind of just routine, like, deferred maintenance. We've actually had to home some people that work for other Department of Interior agencies,
mm-hmm.
and have been working from home for, like, a decade or more, or at least since, like, 2019, 2020. We've had a couple of people that didn't have an office but were forced to do an RTO.
Yeah.
Come to work in our office because we have, like, a little extra space.
Okay, interesting. So,
yeah, there's stuff like that too.
Yeah. So, despite everything that you're experiencing, do you feel like there are any positives that have come about from the new Trump administration?
No.
Okay.
Absolutely not. I mean, I guess there's, like, a sense of solidarity amongst my coworkers, like, we're all in this together,
mm-hmm.
let's form a union, that kind of thing, but, nothing that offsets the insane amount of damage. No positives whatsoever.
Yeah.
I can't think of any.
Yeah. Nothing positive from any of the EOs, but definitely have brought about a sense of solidarity among your coworkers.
Yeah, I mean, like, we're also waiting to see, there's all this talk about, with our new secretary, like, what the new focus is going to be for my agency, because, like, they talk a lot about energy dominance, like energy independence, and then critical minerals, and
mm-hmm.
USGS does a lot of critical minerals and oil and gas. I mean, we do a lot of geology stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's not, like, our main focus necessarily, but, like, So, it could be that we end up getting a lot of funding for certain things that our administration deems of utmost importance, but it could be at the expense of, climate research and, long-term water availability research and stuff like that. We don't really know. So it seems at this point bad, but we could get a ton of funding to do other stuff, and maybe fewer people will lose their jobs from our agency, but for maybe not good reasons, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So what is a message that you would like to convey to the public about your experiences as a federal worker at your job?
Probably just that, we just want to do our jobs because we love our job, and I think public service has been very important to me. I went to grad school to have this specific job or a job like it, and having to, finish my last semester of grad school. So, yeah, just public servants work for less money and do more often for less money than they would if they worked in the private sector, and it's just been incredibly stressful, and we're all just average people like everybody else. None of us are becoming rich off this work. Everybody takes, being funded by taxpayer money very seriously, and is trying to save money and do as much science for as little as possible. I think that would probably be the message. It's just there's lots of reasons you should have faith in your public institutions, and working for them and while they're sort of starting to crumble is depressing. But most of us still see value in the work and still keep doing it.
Okay. Thank you for your time, and thank you for telling me all of this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Have I missed anything? Is there any last words that you want to say?
I don't think so. I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
Okay. You did great. This has helped me a lot, and I'm very happy with everything. Well, I'm not happy. I'm happy to hear that things are kind of crazy.
Yeah.
And I will probably post this mid-August. I've honestly had a surprising amount of people reach out to me, so I'm trying to get through everybody and do my best to post it in a reasonable amount of time. But it'll be probably mid-August that this will be posted, and I'll try to reach out to you and let you know that it's been posted. But in the meantime, if you have any questions or comments, things that you want to add to your conversation, please feel free to reach out to me.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you so much, Naomi. I really appreciate it. And let me know, likewise, if you have any other questions for me or any follow-ups or anything.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And I really hope things get better.
Yeah.
Do you know?
Yeah, me too.
All right. Well, have a great rest of your weekend.
Thank you. You too.
Bye.
Bye.